Live from deep in an underground bunker in East Tennessee, this is America's premier mortgage fuel services expert, Paul Williams.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to welcome back to another edition of Foreclosurepedia Podcast. Foreclosurepedia Podcast, presentation of the Foreclosurepedia Radio Network, which premieres each Sunday evening. We're rolling live now, and we're a little bit late. The time is 20 hours Eastern Daylight Time. The date, 4th of April, 2016. So, you know, there's, excuse me, as many folks know, so I'm back in Tennessee at the general headquarters, foreclosurepedia.org. And so being back in Tennessee means a couple things. One of the things is that sinus is alive and well within me, and I'm your your spokesperson this evening, D. Paul Williams, editor-in-chief, foreclosurepedia.org. There's going to be some coughing, a little bit of hacking. I apologize. As always, I apologize. It is what it is. And we're going to try to work through it tonight. Excuse me. You know, just a interesting note on Knoxville, Tennessee, Knox County. You know, it has one of the heaviest concentrations of the different types of pollen on Earth. They test virtually every medication here. I'm going to tell you, if you have a sinus problem, come to Knoxville. You're going to get the meds for free. They have what I call the Rent-A-Corpse program. They test a lot of medicines, you know, over at UT and such, but sinus meds all the time. They're always pretty good, you know, as long as you end up with the generic, you know, in what I call the Petri gerbil dish, you know, double-blind study. Neither here nor there. So we got a lot of things spinning around. We're going to get to them very rapidly. As you know, the lead on on the website tonight, you know, Jason Marzek, and then there were none. So look, this is this old Safeguard Properties management hack. You know, I mean, he was up there in the management echelon. He had initially reached out to me. We spoke, I want to say I was out there at the Area 51 complex, you know, Western Command, a while back. We had a discussion. I had voiced my concerns about Safeguard and adamantly denied, if you will, you know, any interaction, etc. ad nauseum. I tried to take him at face value. Tried to reach back out to him over in the LinkedIn sector, so he has this running, I don't know what to call it, advertisement. And you know, so lo and behold, you know, when I tried to reach out to him, all of a sudden, I suppose because his you know, the Jewish mafia up in Valley View must have counseled him on the fact that you know, speaking with a white agnostic is probably not in his best interest, or I don't know. Maybe he's just got a hard-on for me. But the one thing you don't do, the one thing that I think this industry would concur upon, is you don't fuck with Paul Williams. So right out the gate, right from the hip, that's right. We're going Howard Stern on the shit tonight. You know, and here's the deal, Mr. Marzek. You know, fuck me. Hey, I got thick skin. I'm not, you know, no problems there. But you're out there advertising that you need processors, you know. So now you've moved, if you will, your position has shifted from consulting to recruiting. And so the first guy had opined into his thread, said, hey, this is what I do. And, you know, and so what happened with it? What happened was the guy never even got a reply. I had attempted, you know, privately to reach out. And in that instant case, once again, fuck you. And, you know, dead silence. I mean, nothing new with the Jewish mafia types, but it is what it is. And so I reached out to the guy and I said, hey, you know, if you have a good shingle to hangle, let's wrap. Now, it turns out that the gentleman excuse me, whom had replied to Mr. Marzek's recruitment. And in full disclosure, in that group of nearly 10,000 people, I'm the admin mod there. All right, so full disclosure. And I try to give everybody the benefit of the doubt. I don't bring the luggage that I have over into there. I allow people to gracefully cut their own throats. I had said, hey, you ought to at least tell this guy yay or nay. And simply because this guy was from India, Bangladesh, wherever it is over there, was that the reason Marzek turned the cold shoulder to he? I don't know. But I do know this. You don't disrespect people based, upon where they originate from. Now, I know within the processing world that everybody's getting it off, if you will. They're avoiding the Aspen Grove. And remember, look, hey, Aspen Grove, this is what Eric Miller shoved down everybody's fucking throats. This was supposed to be the gospel. This was the second incarnation of Jesus. But look here. Why is it that you don't have to have an Interpol check run? Is it perhaps because Aspen Grove can't fucking do it? Or is it because of the fact that those individuals, those offender members of the National Association of Mortgage Field Services regime, it's a regime, ladies and gentlemen, cannot pay the prices that they would have to if that data was kept safely within the United States. Now, they're trying to say because the servers are here that there's no problems. Okay? So that's like saying that the munitions that are being used by Al-Qaeda and Islamic State, they don't originate from U.S. manufacturers, so we're going to let them blow them up wherever the fuck we want, is madness. Madness. But Mr. Marzek, let me tell you something. Let me tell you something right here, right now, on the Foreclosurepedia podcast. You're on the radar. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you more publicity than you have ever asked for. And I'm going to do this as a public service. You see, I'm going to introduce you to labor. I'm going to give you that 15 minutes of fame that Andy Warhol made so famous. Rest in peace while he was walking, amongst us. Because that's what you really want. You want that 15 minutes of fame. You want much like Mailer when he rolled out his 6 degrees of separation. But you're going to have 1 degree of separation when I'm done. Because here's the reality. First and foremost, I was extremely loath to allow the fox to begin to guard the hen house. And you see, that's what you're doing, Mr. Marzek, in my opinion. You are from Safeguard. You will never, ever have that tarnish, that blemish removed from your record. All right, I'm going to give you a real life example. So, everybody out there, I have a girlfriend up here in Tennessee. Got a great kid. Other than the sinus issues up here, excuse me, by and large, we have a great time. But we always have an argument. And at the end of the day, what has to happen is a man generally 9 times out of 10 has to say, at the end of the day, the woman's right. That's just how it is. That's life. And you see, Mr. Marzek, within this industry, if you're going to come in and you're going to attempt to deal with labor, you don't shit where you sleep. So you might check your email, and I'm not giving you a direct order. Look, son, hell, I was toting an M16A1 while your mother's still wiping snot off your nose. So it's not a military camaraderie deal. It's a, don't come and disrespect not only me, but look, the people you're trying to recruit within the groups from, don't disrespect them. So that is the Foreclosurepedia tool tip of the evening. Don't disrespect labor. And that is one thing, like a beacon of light shining in from the dark wilderness. Thus Foreclosurepedia cometh as a friend of labor. We're going to be right back after word from our sponsors this evening. Got some great sponsors lined up. We really appreciate their support. And we're going to talk about what we have lined up this evening. I'm going to tell you, folks, it's not just the asset management side. It's not just what's going down in that docket that has the word sealed entered upon it. So many times that John Brennan over at CIA on the other side of the Potomac blushes. Ladies and gentlemen, we got a hard-hitting one lined up for you this evening, and we'll be back with you right after this. So, like I said, ladies and gentlemen, and our sponsors are great folks. We appreciate their support, and we appreciate them giving those discounts that they just spoke about to the Foreclosurepedia Nation. Our hats off to them. So, look, I told you it's a hard-hitting evening, and I'm gonna lay a lot of focus. A lot of focus to a man by the name of Jay Goscinski. Now, a lot of you will remember Jay Goscinski. He was I presume still is. He's a Michigan realtor. He's proprietor of Michigan Realty Solutions. So he's involved in some bad shit. All right, real bad shit. Now, Eric Miller, the executive director of the National Association of Mortgage Field Services regime. Eric Miller is the same man whom enriches both himself and his family upon the backs of labor and even management to the tune of $120,000 plus per year, which obscenely consumes over 70% of all NAMP's member dues. Let me stop right there. I don't understand how a nonprofit organization can justify the payment of over 70% of all member dues to an executive director whom year after year after year has ensured, either by and through overt or has tacitly overseen the plunder, of their treasury. Because reality, hey, look, I can't make this shit up. Go up there to the download section, download the NAMPS 990s. Look, these are the nonprofit organization tax returns. Year after year after year, Foreclosurepedia has to step to the plate and file an IRS 13909 complaint just to get a copy of the tax, return. And unlike most Americans, or most what I call above-board nonprofit organizations, granted they're a 501c6, business trade association, but look, they wait till the very last minute to file. But anyway, so good old Jay. Eric Miller knew for quite some time that Jay Goscinski was refusing to pay labor. He racked up nearly $1 million in debt. Still hasn't paid labor. Look, I oversaw in closed hearings that's right. I wear many hats. One of those hats was through the process of overseeing a case, for want of better words, between both a member of labor and Jay Goscinski. Jay is the debtor, the member of labor as the creditor. This was in the tens of thousands of dollars. Okay, and so let me lay the stage out here. Okay, now what had happened was, as a member of labor, this is all well documented, and let me tell you how well documented this was that Altisource, Pat McTaggart, requested a copy of the entire record. And so look, I don't just throw out some bullshit out there. In accordance with the International Association of Field Service Technicians, so we have forms. We have our own internal arbitration process. There are forms. They look identical to everything you're going to see, both on the domestic and international levels. The fact of the matter is that so there was $28,045.03 owned. Oh, just to one individual. Now, the process was begun December of 2014. And so there was some things going back and forth. For example, on the 22nd of December 2014, still not have gotten a copy of the complainant's complaint or the spreadsheet. I've taken the liberty of attaching his open orders through October 31. With full disclosure, we are discussing this with the complainant. Was perusing my office, speaking with Ray, and asking for payments as late as last week. I'm shocked when Ray came to see me, if I could, lend the company some money to get a payment out to the complainant last week. So there was a whole process of formality. All right, so let me walk you through some of this. So for example, there's the complaint that's issued. There's an answer that's issued, and these are well defined. Look, this isn't just taking a napkin and filling it out. Both parties have to agree that there is something that is justiciable. They have to second agree that IFST has jurisdiction, and third and finally, they bind themselves to the record that is generated, and that such might be admissible in a court of law. For example, this email is being delivered to both petitioner and respondent. It's attached as a portable document format. If respondent chooses to issue an answer, IFST will provide documentation presented by petitioner, prepare a case record, and schedule a hearing. And so what happened? In essence, and this was an order that I issued out, minute order, minute hearing. Layman's overview is that complainant will submit a claim. She's already submitted. It's an Excel spreadsheet. Respondent, Goscinski, will submit an answer. Case number assigned to this matter is 14 TAC Alpha Lima Tango Indio TAC 201214. This case number shall be mandatory in all further communications. Beginning tomorrow, I will send out a case tracking log. In that email, the subject line will only include the case number, and all communications shall be memorialized in that email. As a sole arbitrator in this matter, I am unable, that's myself, I'm unable to advise either party with respect to legal positions. If either party has a question with specificity to the format or other procedural questions, the question shall be included the ongoing email, which shall be generated no later than 1800 EDT, 20 December 14. So nobody bumped their head. Wasn't like anybody didn't know what was going on. And as a matter of fact, as we go down here, and I'm going through the record right now, even as recent as the end of 2014, there was an agreement hammered out. With respect to the outstanding work orders, I'm not aware of any bearing that would have. For the sake of the legal argument, though, I have a copy. The MRS contract Jane submitted under compensation at paragraph 7. There appears to be a provision for biweekly advances. So if this is a counterclaim, as paragraph 4 in the aforementioned section states, quote, payment shall be issued in the form of company check, end quote, attach those. I suppose the liberally construing of paragraph 1 could be interpreted as an employee relationship, and yet another type of counterclaim could be made. I don't know, and I'm really at a loss regardless, as nothing much matters until MRS says, quote, they owe an amount, but not the amount listed, or they do not owe any amount. So it was liberally construed. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not giving legal advice. This was a voluntary entry by both parties, and Goscinski did enter into an order. The entirety of the record was presented to Altisource, which is a foreign national. So it's not like there's no history here other than just what IFST or myself, Foreclosurepedia, put forward. Goscinski entered into that agreement and then said, fuck you. There's no other way of putting it. Fuck you. I'm not fucking paying. This happened time and time and time and time again, not all the time through IFST, or through what we like to call our arbitration process. So to say that Mr. Goscinski, when he produces, or when he comes forward and he makes a statement, it has to be colored by the fact that he has part and parcel a pattern and or a history, a modus operandi of entering into agreements and then refusing to pay upon those agreements. There's no two ways of spinning this. It's my opinion, but I feel comfortable if this was put in front of a judge. A judge would have to sit down and say, well, look, did somebody have a gun at your head? You admitted you owed money. You admitted you're going to pay. You never paid that money. What the fuck? The judge ain't going to say what the fuck, but I did. So, fast forward to what's going on right now. Goscinski's up there in Michigan, rolls in his RV, get some bids. I don't want to go as far as say I wasn't. I read the record. And things go south. Proverbially speaking, kicks in the doors, hijacks the RV, and books it out. The RV where the services were performed was at the lot there of Keith Evola. And so here's the deal. He owes money. Didn't pay the money. I don't think any part of that's being argued. But what is being brought up now is the fact that Goscinski's lawyer is attempting to muddy the waters by saying that Mr. Evola and perhaps his counsel, are improper in allowing a third party to look outside of the box at the record, which, look, this is a public record. And by the way, folks, we're going to ensure that we give 15 minutes of fame to Mr. Goscinski's counsel. Now, if you go back and track my track record on this, when I lock horns with counsel, I give two fucking shits. You gonna come at me, you gonna threaten me with some bullshit? That law goes both ways, Holmes. So does the First Amendment. So we're going to find out who you are. We're going to find out if there's ambulance chasing going on. And we're going to find out precisely how much you want to invest. You want to invest in issuing a chilling effect upon the First Amendment. Mr. Goscinski doesn't like the fact that his past actions are being reported by members of the media. The United States Department of Housing and Urban Development time and time again has cited Foreclosurepedia as a credentialed member of the media by and through our FOIA process. But look, if you don't like the government, how about U.S. Bank? Because they relied upon Foreclosurepedia to get their ass out of a $100 million lawsuit, in part. So the fact of the matter is, you can't just say that, Paul Williams is some lame duck asshole, blogger. You can't have your cake and eat it too. Either I am media, and I have the legal right, vis-a-vis perhaps Obsidian, or maybe even a step further, that's a decision out of the Ninth Circuit last year, or I'm a blogger, and if I'm a blogger, that means U.S. Bank's they cannot rely upon that information, and HUD was erroneous in answering FOIA in the capacity under color of state law of Foreclosurepedia. You see, that's the problem. See, every time one of these slimy offender members of NAMPS gets out of the cage, there's chaos everywhere. Chaos everywhere, man. Why not pay your bill, or if you didn't agree with the bill, why not get counsel, get legal possession of your vehicle, all right, and then argue it in court? I'm failing to understand that. Now, Mr. Evola, who really had absolutely nothing, to say by and large, other than, I'm involved in a suit I have a lawyer. Here's the case number. Why attack this man? I'll tell you precisely why. Because this man was not part of the industry. And he wasn't going to take 25 cents on the dollar, all right, for the work he did and the materials he provided. And he wasn't going to be pushed around. Wasn't going to be pushed around by some guy whom, as we see in photographs on Facebook, looks like some thug. That whole Al Capone get up, come on, man. And your daughter's driving a $40,000 plus souped up enormous truck. Yeah, we got the photos of that too, baby. Come on, man. If you want to live that way, then you got to play that way. But don't go around screwing with innocent citizens, all right, and think just like a work order in this industry that they got to take it on the chin. Don't expect them not to come back out at your chin. And that's a proverbial statement, but this is the reality. This is the mentality that NAMPS offender members begin to generate. They really do believe that this this protection that Eric Miller seems to dish out, because look, hey, Miller was recalcitrant. Actually, Miller never did a goddamn thing. What happened was, to alleviate the suffering that he knew this guy brought about. Look, Goscinski, in accordance with the NAMPS own bylaws that were in play at that point in time, and we know how those bylaws change, because now on the board of directors or on any of the directors' positions, hell, you can be anybody now. As long as you got the money, baby, you're at the table. That ain't no bullshit. It used to be third-party service providers like those providing the locks and the background checks and the processing. Those people couldn't sit in those seats. Now, all of a sudden, and I asked Miller, he said, oh, no, the law's changed. I said, provide me a copy of that when it did change and a copy of the minutes. Never heard shit. Well, you see, Goscinski issued a fraudulent letter of recommendation from Altisource. And we know that because Altisource's former Associate General Counsel stated that. He stated, we don't ever issue letters on behalf of anybody. Of anybody, I want you to think about that just for a moment. How is it precisely when you know as the executive director of a trade association that the man you threw into your newsletter and you gave the props and welcomed him in with them arms wide open, baby? Feel like I'm listening to some Creed song here, but look, man, I'm going to tell you, ain't no light at the end of the tunnel, Mr. Goscinski. It's been permanently shut off due to budget constraints. And you ought to be familiar with those budget constraints, Jay. You know why? That's right, because you and your fellow offender members of NAMPS, that's right, you guys initiated them. No. And here's the deal. It wasn't simply just that. Miller was quoted by another fellow NAMPS member as stating, if there are ever any issues with Goscinski, he is gone immediately. But that didn't happen. We brought forward the evidence. The evidence, not the hypothesis, that Goscinski, by and through the paperwork submitted, had issued what appeared to be, at least to me and many other individuals, to be a forged document purporting mold inspections. Now look, folks, this transcends the normal bullshit. This isn't a Paul Williams hates NAMPS or NAMPS hates me or Jay Goscinski's just a fucking piece of shit, if you might think that way, like I do. I do, man. You fuck people have $1 million, you're a fucking piece of shit. What this is, pure and simple, this is a federal issue. This is a safety issue. And this was, if it's submitted up the pike, And if it was paid upon, this is a violation of the False Claims Act, best I can read. Look, you don't have to be no rocket scientist. False Claims Acts, look, this goes back to the Civil War, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not no lawyer, and I'm not giving you no legal advice. What I am is an old redneck in a county with one stoplight. I don't ask anybody to come listen to me. People come listen to me because what they want is, they want my opinion. They want my opinion, and they want the elucidation upon issues which present that nobody else is talking about. Nobody's talking about them because they're terrified. I've been doing it 8 years. I'll be here another 80. When I'm dead and gone, one of you people, and so here, you know, there was a threat made on me by a high-ranking, large company owning member of NAMPS. Yeah, I better watch my back. Let me tell y'all people something down there in Miami. Let me tell you, you all better be asking around if it's wise to make threats against me. Hey, I'm not going to come after you physically. What I'm going to do is I'll start releasing documents. Let me tell you what nobody wants. Nobody wants to be holding that Tong Sua mess. Mr. Goscinski, if you or your counsel want to come on the podcast, by all means, give me a holler. Make no mistake whatsoever. We'll get on here. We'll talk facts. But if your counsel wants to get on here and fucking shine his dick, fuck that bullshit. I'll crucify him on air. I tell you what, when I'm done, now you want to come bring the truth. You want to discuss facts and the merits of the case. Hey, we'll do that all day long, baby. No problem. I give you the respect. But the minute that you cross that line and you move over into the spin zone, when I'm done, they're going to think that you people raped the body of the Christ as it is being brought down off the cross. I don't have the luxury of religion. Something out there? I don't know. Hey, I believe in the X-Files. Bullshit nobody. But I'm not religious. And to parade around and parrot like the Carol Boyds of the world did back during the VA scandal, that's not hypocritical, man. That's bullshit. You know, folks, we're at the top of the hour. Time is 0100 hours, Eastern Daylight Time. Date 4th of April, 2016. That's been my 2 cents on Jay Goscinski. You know, I had a big old spiel. I was going to write about it. But you can catch this right now. It's on Foreclosurepedia.org. Evola v. Goscinski. Will Eric Miller chip in? I think Eric Miller should. You know, a lot of money flowed into NAMPS from Goscinski. Why not? Huh? Catch you at the top of the hour here in just a minute. As always, we'd like you to listen in on our sponsors, you know, perhaps even, you know, take a gander at what they have to offer. Foreclosurepedia doesn't ever get behind anybody, you know, but we went through these folks. They you know, they have some good products. Full disclosure, I actually buy a couple of products. You know, give them a listen, man. You know, tell them, send the message that the Foreclosurepedia Nation supports those who support them. I'm Paul Williams, Editor-in-Chief, Foreclosurepedia.org. Foreclosurepedia, always a friend of labor. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. As usual, you may reach me on Google Plus at D. Paul Williams, LinkedIn, Paul Williams, and the LinkedIn group Property Preservation Consortium. Twitter, Foreclosurepedia. We stream all our podcasts on iTunes, Foreclosurepedia. We have our screencasts over on YouTube, the Foreclosurepedia channel, and always at foreclosurepedia.org. We'd like to give a special shout out to Amazon.com, whom provides our S3 podcast and video storage, and Cloudflare for hosting Foreclosurepedia in 24 different geo-positioned servers, pro bono as well. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, feel free to give me a shout out. at foreclosurepedia.org.